It was late autumn in the village of Norddal, nestled in the heart of the Norwegian mountains. The air had turned cold, and a heavy fog hung over the valley, cloaking the landscape in an eerie stillness. Lars, a young man from the village, had grown accustomed to the isolation of the area, but tonight, something felt different. The chill in the air seemed sharper, the wind colder, as though the very land itself was holding its breath. Lars had been walking home from the woods after gathering firewood when he noticed the strange quiet that had settled over the forest. The usual rustling of animals and the wind through the trees was absent. The only sound was the crunch of his boots in the damp earth beneath him. He quickened his pace, the hairs on the back of his neck prickling. His grandmother had warned him countless times to never venture into the woods after dark. "The Hulder come when the mist rises," she had said, her voice grave. But Lars, ever the skeptic, had laughed it off as old folktales. The Hulder were nothing more than stories to scare children, she had told him. But tonight, he was starting to question his doubts. As he neared the edge of the forest, he saw something in the mist, a figure. At first, he thought it was a trick of the fog, a shadow among the trees. But then it moved. Slowly, deliberately. Lars stopped in his tracks, his heart pounding in his chest. The figure emerged from the mist, a woman, though not quite. She was beautiful, her long hair flowing like a cascade of midnight, her skin pale as snow. She wore a simple dress that seemed to shimmer with an unnatural light, blending with the fog. Her eyes, however, were what caught Lars's attention. They were impossibly wide, almost glowing, and there was something unsettling in their depth, as if they were staring right through him. The woman smiled at him, a slow, haunting smile that did not reach her eyes. "Lost, are we?" she asked, her voice soft, like a breeze through the trees. Lars swallowed hard. "No, I'm just heading home," he replied, trying to keep his voice steady. The woman took a step toward him, her movement graceful, almost otherworldly. "The night is dangerous," she said, her voice carrying an eerie sweetness. "You shouldn't be alone in the woods at this hour. Come with me, and I will guide you." Lars felt an inexplicable pull toward her, a strange warmth that contrasted with the chill in the air. But something in the back of his mind screamed that he should not trust her. His grandmother's warnings echoed in his head. "No, I'll be fine," Lars said, taking a step back. "I've got to go." But the woman's smile only widened, and for a moment, her beauty seemed to falter. Her eyes gleamed with something darker, something hungry. She took another step closer, and as she did, Lars noticed something that made his blood run cold: her back. Or rather, the lack of it. Where a normal human spine should have been, there was only a twisted, gnarled hole in her flesh, as though her back had been hollowed out, revealing a smooth, dark void. The realization hit him like a punch to the gut. She was no woman. She was the Hulder, one of the ancient creatures of Norwegian folklore, a siren of the forest, cursed to live between the worlds of the living and the dead. A creature that lured men to their doom with beauty and promises, only to reveal its true, monstrous nature when it was too late. "Stay with me," she whispered, her voice turning darker, her smile curling into something predatory. "You won't have to be alone. I'll make sure of that." Lars stumbled backward, his heart racing. The mist thickened around him, and he could feel her presence closing in, like a weight on his chest. He turned to run, but the fog seemed to twist and shift, trapping him in its suffocating embrace. "You can't escape me," the Hulder's voice called after him, now echoing in the mist. "Not now, not ever." Lars ran as fast as he could, his breath coming in ragged gasps, but every turn he took only brought him deeper into the fog, further away from the path home. The ground beneath him seemed to shift, the trees towering over him like dark sentinels, their branches reaching down like claws. And then he heard it, a low, guttural sound, not from the woman, but from behind him. The soft crunch of footsteps, too heavy to be human. He turned, but saw nothing in the mist. The growling grew louder, closer, until it was right behind him. Panic surged through Lars, and he pushed himself harder, desperate for an escape. But his legs felt like lead, and the fog seemed to be pressing in on him from all sides. Suddenly, a cold hand grabbed his arm. He spun around, and there she was, the Hulder, her face twisted in a grotesque grin, her eyes glowing with malevolent intent. She leaned in close, her breath icy against his ear. "You shouldn't have run," she purred. "Now, you belong to the forest. Forever." Before Lars could scream, she yanked him into the mist, and the world around him went black. The next morning, when the fog finally lifted, the villagers of Norddal searched the woods for Lars. They found his tracks, leading deep into the forest, but no sign of him. His disappearance became another tale whispered around the hearth, another mystery that would never be solved. But late at night, when the mist rolled in once again, some of the villagers claimed to hear strange sounds from the woods. The soft rustle of a woman's laughter, followed by a growl that seemed to echo from the very depths of the earth. And if they listened closely, they could hear a man's voice, faint and pleading, lost forever in the embrace of the Hulder.